For Temple, Burning Man typically gives about $100,000 for that. The rest, the artist has to raise, and most people at Burning Man think that participants at Burning Man, event goers or what have you, believe that Burning Man pays for the temple, and they pay a lot, or they gift a lot, $100,000. And I didn't have to build a temple that was so expensive and went on for 3 years, and but I did, and prices got away from me, and commodity prices went up at one point in March of, well, commodity prices went up in some cases 7 times. So steel and lumber, there was a point at which lumber actually cost 7 times what I had initially bid it at.
That's crazy.
It is. So, and so in...
But you can't, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, so the original lumber package was something like $140,000. Think of what that is times 7, right? And I still had to build this thing. So we did 2 fundraisers. We actually did 2 under the direction of our great fundraising captain, Nick Johnson. We did 2 Kickstarter campaigns, and we raised more money and more quickly than I think anybody in the history of Burning Man. And so before the initial shutdown, we raised $85,000 in the spring of 2020, and then we did it again going into 2022, but it wasn't enough. Prices have gone through the roof. It's so hard to raise money via crowdsourcing, and we'd sold, as gifts, gifted thousands of T-shirts and other things like that. And so in June-ish of 2020 or May, I'd already put about $140,000 of my own money into the project.
Wow.
In addition to all my time, and there was just no money coming in. We struggled to get that second $100,000 through Kickstarter, and it took an entire squad of volunteers to just do that. But the kitchen itself was $30,000, $35,000. Feeding a crew of 80 on ply for 30 days is really expensive.
Yeah.
It's not extravagant. I mean, we ate whole grains and vegetables, but it was good food, but it's not extravagant. And I really did not want to charge to have the crew pay for their own meal plan or any other ticketing things. Mm-hmm. Or water, because in previous years, the crew had to pay for their own water and their own food. And so, I mean, just that jacked up the price by close to $50,000. So nobody paid for their own tickets or vehicle passes to get on playa early, or food, or water.
So you had to buy those tickets from...
Burning Man gifted us the tickets so that we transferred those out at no cost. But, some people sometimes are saddled with extra expenses, like a vehicle pass. We just didn't have enough, and they'd have to buy them. So if somebody bought a vehicle pass, we reimbursed them. The Empyrean reimbursed them. So that's more clear. Burning Man gave us a ton of tickets, and all of those went to crew.
The crew.
So there's no money involved in that one. But the bigger thing is typically the food plan is $400 or $500 per person, and nobody paid that, and nobody paid camp dues, because I didn't want to charge people for that, and blah blah blah. So when we shut the project down, and I met with the whole core team, including Memphis and Rachel and Nick, who's director of fundraising, and Memphis was relatively new at that time. And I put a memo out to the burner community, and I said, we're going to have to stop the project because I don't have the money, and I can't spend any more money on my own. I wasn't willing. And, I just don't...
That was late, right? May or June?
That was, late May, early June, something like that. And the community definitely rallied, but I talked to Memphis, who I didn't know well, and she said she was in fundraising, and she said, well, you just stopped the project, what are you going to do? And I said, something is going to give. Some money is going to fall out of the sky. I don't know how to do it. I'm exhausted by this whole money thing. We spent so much time on it. And she said that, I said, why don't you do it? She said, okay. And so basically that afternoon, I said, just go. You're now a fundraiser. She's like, really? I said, if you don't do it, who's going to? And so she went
So
into...
she wasn't originally on the team for fundraising?
No.
Really?
No, she was making lunches. She has a bad knee, so she wasn't working that much, but she was making, so she'd show up every day, every 3 days a week, she would make lunches for the crew in St. Helena for the crew of 20 or 30 people for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday we worked on site in Santa Rosa.
At the winery?
At the winery, yeah. And then I stopped the project and I didn't have a plan, but I knew something had to give.
Like, did you think that maybe you wouldn't be able to build it?
No.
Or did you just were like, we have to let people know that this is a crisis?
That's exactly what I thought, is that we had to let people know this is a crisis and someone's gonna have to step forward. But I didn't know who that person was. I didn't have a single contact of a Burning Man heavy hitter, someone that was gonna donate $50,000. I didn't have after 2 years on the project, and all of our crew, we didn't have a single name.
We're kind of tapped out on
Yeah.
the big donors.
We didn't have we never had a major donor up to that point. It was all Kickstarter or Burning Man. It was all $50 at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point we had $250,000. We need to essentially triple that. And we couldn't do it. Burning Man was not going to give us more money. Kickstarter was simply not an option. We just couldn't do it anymore. The money wasn't there. And so I said, Memphis just got a big smile on her face and said, I'll do it. And I said, go. Just start calling. And I said it. So we basically got her an email, and any email that came into the team about funding, we just pointed it to Memphis, and Memphis took over. And what you know about Memphis is she doesn't stop. So she latched onto these donors, and she came up with several $100,000 really fast. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it couldn't have moved forward without that, I
No.
assume.
No. Nick is the director of fundraising, and he held us together for a long time. And then Rachel took over on the private donors, and the big pocket donors. We had to have them. You get money from 3 places: Burning Man, individual small donors via crowdsource, and there's always been a component of people that can afford to write $50,000 checks. Mm-hmm. And Memphis was a big part of that.
That's cool.
It is cool. She's awesome. Memphis is awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to her about this.
Yeah. And Garth, her partner, was just always in the background, like doing whatever needed to be done. And so the two of them were a great tag team. I mean, I didn't know, I just met them on April 1st, and when we opened the site, and it took me all of April kind of get to know them, and they very quickly became an integral part of the crew. Garth has lots of experience running a camp, and he was so helpful, just providing guidance on how to do that.
But sounds like the crew that ended up really building it, it all didn't come together until the last few months.
Correct. The great thing about working in Santa Rosa, well, actually not really, because a lot of the people who were on the crew were from the Santa Rosa build, either from Temple that I had known in Temple
2019.
Direction in 2019, and or the crew that built up in Santa Rosa. And building on top of that, building again in Santa Rosa, I got to meet a bunch more people. Mm-hmm. But we selected those. I think Empyrean had about the biggest carpentry crew that's ever hit Playa. I mean, I think we had 82 people on Playa at one point or the other, but the carpentry crew was experienced and good people of something like 42 deep. Mm-hmm. And that was built over the years.
Yeah, and you needed all of the expertise.
And we needed every single person, because nobody of that core crew, nobody quit.
Yeah.
Well, what I mean by that is people just wouldn't stop until it was done.
Right. Hey, it's TJ out there at all hours.
Right. And everybody, but we work all day, and I was exhausted, and then we set up the lights and the night crew would go out hanging panels. I mean, you were out there.
Yeah, it was kind of nice at night when the wind died down, and
Yes.
on those nights, few nights that it did die down.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of magical being out there at night and the noise is down and the temperatures are down and you're working under the lights and fundraising is hard.
Yeah. Cool. Any other things you want to cover?
I think that's it.
Okay, well, we covered a lot of ground. This is fantastic. So thanks for doing the interview and for building the temple.
Thank you for your help.
Yeah. I'm excited about this project. I was just telling Rachel earlier, I had originally thought that this would probably take me 6 months to do it right, and we'd release it by Burning Man. But I think I want to buckle down and see if I could get it done by Easter.
Wow,
Easter,
that's ambitious.
It's ambitious. I'm not going to promise it, but I decided that I might set that goal for myself. And so, anyway, I was also thinking of reaching out to Rand and what's the other guy's name?
It'll come to you, but Rand, there's few people that Rand was a backbone of the organization, and he, you wouldn't think, most people would not think that of him because he's so quiet in the background, but his encouragement with his videography was just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And he was there from the start, and he was always positive, and he always treated people with respect, and he's just wonderful. And
Yeah, it helped morale, didn't it?
yeah, and so he didn't cook. I mean, the two major squads on Playa or anything is, well, there's administration, cooking, and building. And he was an advisor, but he didn't really do any of those. But he made all those videos and kept this spirit going. I mean, there's nobody that did more than Rand.
Mm-hmm.
He's wonderful to work with.
Was he there? He was there the whole time, right?
The whole time.
All the way through
Yeah.
L&T?
All the way through, and no matter what happened, he's always there with a smile, even when he was pissed. And anyway, I hope you get a chance to interview him. He's in Palm Springs.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely reach out to him.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thanks a lot.
You bet.
Cool. All right.
What is your? I'm actually.